the voting polls. It's time again to get out and vote. Yes, it's time again to get out and vote. Don't devote, don't devote people. 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 Don't devote. Here we are again at this most important day. It's been 4 years, but it seems like yesterday. It's time to vote again. We can't let nothing get in our way. 4 years has passed, and we have so much to say. So now's the time to cast your vote, 'cause voting is our only hope. It's time again to get out and vote. Yes, it's time again to get out and vote. Don't devote, don't devote people. 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 Don't devote. Many of our children are dying from police brutality, and now voting for us is our responsibility. Yes, voting we must to deal with these tragedies, and God we must trust, and voting is the seed. So now's the time to cast your vote, 'cause voting is our only hope. It's time again to get out and vote. Yes, it's time again to get out and vote. Don't devote, don't devote people. 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 Don't devote, don't devote people.
It's the 40th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act. Brothers and sisters, it's time to put on your marching shoes.
Still marching. We ain't got tired yet. Still marching.
Come on.
And we have no regrets. Still marching. Still marching. We're gonna get there before too long.
40 years, not too long ago, black people didn't have the right to vote. But they didn't stop trying, they didn't give up hope. Some even died at the end of a hangman's rope. But soon some people began to fight against what they knew wasn't right. Blacks, Jews, and whites took a stand, and that is when all the marching began.
Still marching. We ain't got tired.
We ain't got tired.
Marching. And we have no regrets.
Have no regret. For the years that's going strong.
Still marching. We're gonna get there before too long.
Now the first march was in Selma, Alabama. It's a day we'll always remember. On the Edmund Pettus Bridge, police stood in the way. It was the beginning of the bloody Sunday. Dr. King knew that we would be attacked, but he said to everyone that we ain't turning back. So we marched holding hands, singing we shall overcome. Then we dodged police and clubs that put us on the run.
Still marching. We ain't got tired.
We ain't got tired.
Marching. And we have no regrets.
Have no regret. For the years that's going strong.
Still marching. We're gonna get there before too long.
Yeah, come on. Yeah, yeah, come on. Done the vote. Come on. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Come on. Come on. Done the vote. Many people died for the right to vote. That's right. So don't take catch it, cause it ain't no joke. That's right. The battle's still long, but there's still hope. That's right. If it don't take action, it will go up in smoke. It ain't that hard, it won't give you a stroke. That's right. But now it's time to get on the boat. If you don't get out and vote, come on, my brother, it would surely be all she wrote. That's so let's dump the vote. So let's dump the vote. That's right. Let's dump the vote. Come on, let's dump the vote. Shit.
That's the Dunk the Vote theme here on the Boston Praise Radio and TV Network, 102.5 FM radio and Boston Black News. All three of us are working together. All three of our stations are working together. We're gearing up for the election today, and I'm hoping that you have made an intentional choice to vote on Election Day. That is today. The polls open early in the morning. You will find that some polls are opening at 7 a.m. in the morning on Election Day, and they're closing at 8 p.m. So you have all day. My wife and I decided that we were going to vote by mail. So we voted a few weeks ago. It's done. And this is the Massachusetts state primary. This is the state primary, and this is the state elections and primaries here in Massachusetts. And people, I hope, will be lining up to go to vote for the candidates of their choice. The presidential election will be held on November 3rd. But right now we're talking about the state elections and the primary. I'm hoping that you are going to vote for your state representative, for your state senator, for your congresspeople, that you'll be voting for the governor's council. You'll be voting for a number of different officers that are going to be on the voting list. I actually have a copy of the state primary early absentee ballot that I used to vote. Today is Tuesday, September 3rd. And the state primary is today. We have the senators in Congress, representatives in Congress. We have the governor's council, which is a must-watch election. You've got to watch this one. We have the senators in the general court. We have the representatives in the general court. We have the clerk of the Supreme Court. Many political pundits, many people are watching this race. This is one of the most watched races here in Massachusetts. The clerk of the Supreme Judicial Court, the clerk of the Superior Court Civil Division, the clerk of the Superior Court, the Criminal Division, the Registry of Deeds, and the Register of Probate Court. So there is a lot taking place here in our city. There's a lot taking place in our state. There's a lot taking place all over the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I hope that you are not making these kinds of statements, ignorant statements. Voting doesn't work. Ignorance statement. I hope you're not saying all politicians are bad or dirty. I hope you're not saying that. I hope you're not saying, what difference does my vote mean? What will my vote do in society? It's just one vote. As you know, my city council friend, Julia Mejia, won her election by one vote. One vote made the difference. I'm going to say it again. One vote made the difference. One vote could take you over the top. And so I'm hoping that you will not use these ignorant statements that have no, it's not fact. There's no foundation to these statements. My vote doesn't count. Why am I going to vote? Because your one vote could help somebody to win an election. I don't know who I'm going to vote for. Well, if you didn't take the time to study the candidates, to go to the library and read up on it, use your Google search, if you didn't take the time to open a newspaper and study these candidates, then I still want you to vote. I still want your name to be listed as a voter. You can go in and you can write your name in. If you do not know who to vote for, then write your name in. But do not sit in your home. There's something that's troubling me about the number of people who are leaving Massachusetts, who are leaving Boston and going to the south, or some are going way up to the North Shore. Some are going to the South Shore. Some are migrating out of Massachusetts somewhere down south, and others are going to the South Shore, Braintree, Stoughton, Randolph, Milton, all those areas. And there are some people who were active in the electoral process when they were in Boston, when they lived in Boston. They would go to community meetings. They would go and they would vote for the candidate of their choice. They were just involved. Then they moved to the South Shore, to the North Shore here in Massachusetts. And all of a sudden, they stopped being politically involved or engaged. One of the reasons why is that when they moved out of Boston, these integrated communities, they found themselves going to a place where the dominant people in those communities were white. And so black folk decided that they were outnumbered. They didn't know what the issues were. They just moved into the neighborhood and they stopped being active and involved. That has to stop. No matter where you live, even if you're outnumbered, still go to the meetings if you can. Go to the meetings if you can. Study what the issues are in the city and town that you're now living in, and be involved. Let me go to those couple of those races that I said were going to be watched by a number of people, because there's a number of our state elected officials, our state reps, and our senators have no opposition. So they're already in because there's nobody opposing them. But the clerk of the Supreme Judicial Court is an important position, and we have two people who are actually running for it, two Democrats. It's going to be Allison Cartwright, and City Councilor Erin J. Murphy. Allison Cartwright and Erin Murphy. They are both running for the position of the clerk of the Supreme Judicial Court, the highest court here in Massachusetts. It's an important decision. It's an important position. It's important enough for you to say that you are going to participate and help either Allison Cartwright or Erin Murphy to become the next clerk of the Supreme Judicial Court here in Massachusetts, all across Massachusetts. Important position. As you may or may not know, before I was a pastor, I served as the clerk of the Boston Juvenile Court. I was considered the first assistant clerk of the Boston Juvenile Court. I served with my good friend Jack Bulger, was one of the clerks that I served with. I served with a number of different clerks, but the last clerk that I served with was Jack Bulger. And I retired from my state clerk position, and I came to the church so that I could minister full time. That was a decision that I and my family made. And if I had it to do over again, I think I'd do the same thing. But the clerk of the Supreme Judicial Court is an important position, and you need to vote for one of these candidates. Allison Cartwright, or vote for Erin Murphy. They are both going head to head. They've been endorsed. Both of them have been endorsed by unions, by organizations. If you look at their cards, their political cards that they're passing out to people and turn it over, on the back side, you see all the organizations that have endorsed both of these candidates. They are running neck to neck. One of them will end up tonight winning the race. And tonight, starting at 9 p.m., Ron Bell, Minister Priscilla Flint, and Pastor Franklin Hobbs and I will be broadcasting live from the city, and Ron Bell will be traveling to the various political candidates' sites, and he's going to be calling in from the various sites that he's going to. He'll be interviewing people, so we'll be able to talk to the candidates live on the air. And we're going to stay with this until a winner is announced. The winner of the clerk of the Supreme Judicial Court, Allison Cartwright or Erin Murphy. The other race that everybody is watching is the Governor's Council race. Governor's Council race. The incumbent is Christopher A. Iannella. Christopher A. Iannella is the incumbent. He's been there for well over 30 years. Stacey Borden, which is a person that many people know and they're rooting for. She is also a candidate. And if I don't have my glasses on, but I'll do my best. Ronald Primo is also running for that position. So there are three candidates running for that position. One of them will land it. Governor's Council, they helped to make decisions. Well, I'm looking at the Facebook, and my sister is watching us from Virginia. She's saying, "Good morning, Bruce Wall. I want to vote by mail." You can't vote by mail. You can't. You live in another state. We'll take care of it here. Christopher Iannella, Stacey Borden, and Ronald Primo, both of them are running, all three of them are running for the Governor's Council. Now, I'm going to tell you this because I think it's important to understand how important this position is. I had considered running for the Governor's Council. Why? Because they make decisions on approving who is going to be a judge, and they deal with commentations with having people having their sentences changed so that they can actually commutations get out of prison. They talk about the cases that people have found themselves caught up in, and they can make recommendations that people be released from prison. So since Christopher Iannella doesn't really know all of the communities that he represents, I was going to run and give him a run for his money because being a former clerk magistrate, being a pastor, having a pastor who was on the state parole board, I thought that I had a lot to offer, but that did not work out. And then I heard that Stacey Borden, who is from our community, was actually going to run for this position. And so I was very pleased. So Christopher Iannella, the incumbent, Stacey Borden, and Ronald Primo, Governor's Council, one of the most watched race in this election. One of the most watched race. We're going to be here tonight. Ron Bell, Priscilla Flint, Pastor Franklin Hobbs and I will be here broadcasting live starting at 9 p.m. We're going to continue until a winner is declared in the Clerk of the Supreme Judicial Court race and also the Governor's Council race. Both of these races, again, I'm not looking at the representatives race in my district because there's only one person running. He's unopposed, and I can say that for a number of these candidates are unopposed. But in these two races, the Governor's Council, remember that, Governor's Council and Clerk of the Supreme Judicial Court. What I've done with my family is that I prep them before they go in to vote. I have a ballot. I circle the people that they should vote for, they should consider, and they go in without the paper, but they go in and they vote. I prep my family. I want my family to be voter sensitive. I want them to be able to go in and make intelligent decisions. If I were to go in to vote and I saw all of these candidates and I didn't know much about all of them, I would write my name in. There's a place where you can write your name in. You can say Bruce Wall under all of these candidates that are running for all these races. You can write your name in. Why do that? Well, if you do not know who to vote for, you just don't want to circle one of these people that may be an enemy of the state. And so you write your name in. But we should not be going to the polls ignorant. We should not be going to the polls not knowing who these people are, who they represent, what they will or will not do for our city, for our state. 617-282-0684. It's election day. It's election day in the city of Boston. My sister is watching us from Virginia, and she said that she wants to vote by mail, but she can't vote by mail because she's in another state. But I'm hoping that she's going to vote wherever she's at. Just because you're not in Boston doesn't mean that you can't vote for where you do live. Again, I was making the statement earlier that it frustrates me that a lot of people who were politically active when they used to live in Boston leave Boston and they migrate back down to the South, to Virginia, to Atlanta, to Georgia, to North Carolina, to South Carolina. And when they go there, they stop voting. They stop being politically active. Or when they move to the North Shore out of Boston, we got black folk moving up to New Hampshire, black folk moving to Maine, black folk moving to Chelsea, Lawrence, Malden. We have black folk moving to the South Shore, to Stoughton, to Brockton, to Randolph, to Hingham. They're all over the place. And when they move to their new cities and towns, they're not involved in the political process. Why are you giving up? You were active when you were in Boston. You were a part of your neighborhood group. You were part of everything that was happening in your community. You knew who the police officers were. You knew who the captains were at the various districts. But then when you move out of Boston, you go to new cities and towns, and you just stay at home on election day. You can't do that. I know the new cities and towns that you're going to are different. It's not like being in Boston. It's not like you know your neighborhood. It's not like you have your voting block parties in the new communities where you now live. But that doesn't mean that you don't start studying who the candidates are where you now live. You should be pulling people together and saying, we all live in Randolph or we all live in Stoughton. Let's come together and let's put a list together of the candidates that we are going to study, and then on election day, go and vote. You cannot give up the right to vote. You cannot give up the right to vote because you're unfamiliar with the candidates in your new city or your new town or your new state. Get involved. Get involved. I've already voted. My wife and I voted by mail. Why did we vote by mail? Because I didn't feel like standing in a line. I didn't feel like having to go to vote on today when everybody else, hopefully, is voting. I wanted to sit in the privacy of my home, study these candidates, sit at my dining room table, and check off the candidates that I wanted to vote for, put it in the mail. It was done weeks ago. I'm going to do the same thing for the final election. So for those of you who do not understand, today is the state primary. You have to declare whether you are if you're an independent like I am, you have to declare whether you are going to vote for the Democratic Party, whether you need a Democratic ballot or a Republican ballot. You have to declare what group you're going to associate with, what party you're going to associate with. I have a copy of my state primary Democratic Party official early absentee ballot. I have it, and I'm using it to even broadcast today. I want to say good morning to Leon Rock, who's watching us. He's working with the African American Diabetes Association, and Kawani Minta is also watching us, along with my sister Christine Wall on Facebook. And it's just not Facebook. Well, this morning we are on 4 different Facebook pages. We are on 2 YouTube pages. We are on Roku TV. We're on Apple TV, Boxcast TV. We're on a number of different platforms. So you might look at one platform and see 2 people watching you, but that's because we're on multiple platforms. If we were only on one platform, if we were only on one social media, our numbers would be up. But because we're spread up across 40 different platforms, you'd have to quantify and calculate every single platform to find out how many people are watching us and listening to us today. Well, also, you can hear us on TuneIn Radio, Simple Radio, and 102.9 FM radio here in Boston. So why should people watch us on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter? Well, they have many different options to watch us and to listen to us. And so I'm hoping that we communicating something to you that will help you think. Are you voting today? 617-282-0685. Are you voting today? 617-282-0685. Who are you voting for? Are you too afraid to pick up the phone and give us a call and let us know who you're voting for today? I hope you're not. I hope you will call us and let us know who you are voting for. It's important that you do that because we want to know what's happening in our city, what's happening in our state.
Stewart's story unraveled.
I'm giving the Boston police officers quite a bit of information about what had transpired. And
Nobody up on the floor, you remember? We're playing the continent after we have to get all over.
If you're wanting, you're waiting, you're hoping, I know you're praying that those policing us and racial profiling us, please stop killing black men, women, and children. Stop complaining. Shut up. Take action. Stand. We need satisfaction. Don't just run your life. If you wanna change it, don't vote. If you wanna rearrange it, don't vote. Don't vote. It's said
11 times during all of this, and he could not breathe. He later died. Tonight, a big question being asked: if the medical examiner determined this was a homicide, why no charges?
People across the country are still asking the question how one woman went from being pulled over for a routine traffic violation to ending in a jail cell 3 days later. Sandra Bland, you've probably heard that name by now, the Chicago woman who was in Texas for a job interview and was found dead in her jail cell on July 13th.
If you wanna change it, if you really want better, don't vote for. Don't vote. Yeah. If you wanna rearrange, yeah, yeah. Don't vote. Stay with Ron Bell. Come on.
That's the Dunk the Vote revised theme right here on Boston Prairie Radio and TV. I'm going to go to the phone lines and see who's calling in and see who's going to be a part of this broadcast with me. Hello, caller. You are live on the air.
Pastor Wall, how you doing today?
Hey.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's election day.
It is election day. Celebration of another day of independence and democracy.
Yes. Just you know, one of the things that I've been saying here about this election is that this is just new for me to see so many, to watch so many people migrating down to the south or to other states, or moving to the South Shore or to the North Shore. And sometimes when people move out of their familiar surroundings, yes, somebody made a comment. So when
I'm still here.
Okay, when people move out of their familiar surroundings, sometimes they feel a little they feel like they can't go. They feel intimidated and vote in a new community because they don't know who the people are, or it might be a predominantly white community and they don't feel like trying to break into that. How do we motivate people to go and vote in the new cities and towns that they're living in?
That's a good question, but as you know, as Tip O'Neill said famously, all politics is local. And if we think about that all politics is local, then we look at the new communities that we move into and understand that if we have an interest in anything that goes on in that new community, we have to be involved in the decision-making regarding who gets elected to the school board, to the city council, to the county council, to the sheriff's office. You mentioned the fact that you have people running for positions that were never run for before with black folks, and that is the governor's council and the other position that essentially a staffing position at the state level, where you have the state Supreme Court. These are important positions. Reverend Dr. Michael Haynes was on the parole board. I mean, he imagined justice and realized justice for black folks, for all folks. It's just important to vote. It's just important. Now, how do you outreach to people? Well, that's a good question, too. You got to actually motivate people by having conversations with them like you're doing now.
Stay right there. So we have another caller. Caller, you're live on the air with Leon Rock and Bruce Wall.
Good morning, Leon Rock. I haven't heard your voice in forever. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing? I have to say we have not talked in a long time, Dr. Priscilla.
We got to catch up for real. I've been thinking about you. I gotta reach out to you about some things. But yes, I am so excited that Stacey Borden is running for governor's council. I'm telling you, and I'm also excited about Allison Cartwright. And the thing about it is, a lot of people don't even know what governor's councilors do, and they don't know what the superior clerk does. People just jump up and run for offices that they don't have a clue. I mean, if you listen to Stacey, you know that she knows exactly what she's talking about. She's been out here doing the work. And Allison, for 30-some years, been in the court system, you know? And so I really have an issue with people who get reelected and then the next minute they running for another office. That doesn't make any sense. What about the commitment you just made? So if you decide you're going to run for another office, you're going to run for another office, and then how are you going to do the work you're supposed to? You're a citywide city councilor running against, you just got reelected. You're just halfway through your term.
Well, I'm going to say this. I don't want you to tell Leon, Minister Priscilla, you are not to tell my wife this at all. This is.
You don't want me to what?
I don't want you to tell my wife Karen about what I'm going to say. I don't want you to talk to her. Yeah, don't. Just this is between the three of us right now.
I don't know how you going to be on the air. I don't know how that's going to happen.
Well, I'm
probably listening.
I know how to keep a secret, Pastor.
I appreciate it.
I won't share it with anyone except on my next broadcast.
Right.
Go ahead.
And Priscilla, you can't share it either. So
I won't.
There was a period of time when I was thinking about running for the governor's council. I was going to run because I felt that these are the people who confirm the governor's choices for judges, right? Isn't that an important position for a black person to have? And they commute sentences. They help people with their sentences. They can free people. And I said the person who is in that position, I said, it's been there for 30 years, and I've never seen that person in my community, so I was going to run. So I decided I needed to talk to my wife about it, and so I went home with my strong masculinity, and I sat down trying to intimidate her, and I said, I'm considering a run for public office. She said, yeah, you go ahead and run. And she says, the day you announce, the U-Haul truck will be pulling up to the back of the house, taking out all of my furniture, all of my things, and you can stay there and you can run. So I decided I wasn't running for the governor's council. But then when I heard some of the names, since I cannot choose one because I'm broadcasting. When I heard some of the names of the people that were going to run, I said, finally, we have somebody who can represent us in the governor's council.
Governor's council, I know. It's so. I mean, the idea that they also appoint, I think, parole officers, probation officers. If you don't know these people, who what they stand for, how do you just keep appointing them and keep electing them? That's the issue that we have. We don't. Some of our races are contested. Mostly none of our races on the state level are contested this year.
Right.
And that's how people get in there and they stay in there and they get complacent and they don't do nothing or do what they are supposed to do.
Priscilla and Leon, I mentioned this. I want you to hear this, Priscilla, again. That we have so many people moving out of Boston, and they're going to the South Shore, the North Shore. And some are migrating back down to the south. But for those that go to Stoughton, to Brockton, to Hingham, to Hull, so if they were active politically in Boston, many of them are no longer active in Randolph or in Brockton. They're not involved. And they feel intimidated.
You know why?
Well, yeah, talk to me about that. Both of you.
Well, I think one of the reasons why they don't, because they're in a new town. It takes time to know people. But my thing is, if you were active in Boston, then you should be active in Stoughton, in Randolph, in Brockton, because there's a lot of black people out there now. So they should be organizing and working together to try to make changes, because most of them were gentrified out of Boston. There is a statewide organization called Mass Voter Tables, and we all know about Mass Vote. Well, they have created different types of hubs. They're called the Democracy Hub. And they have certain organizations work within certain communities in and around Boston, in the South Shore and the North Shore. And they are organizing people out there in these different towns, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take us to really make some real solid changes. It's going to take people that are being pushed out of their cities into another city to organize in that city, because that's what it's about. We have to bring the people together. I don't know I think you do know, Pastor, that Larry Ellison and them have started a PAC now, a political action committee. And it's called United Communities, because it's about the community.
Right. So let me ask you, Leon, when you moved to where you live now, because you were in Boston, how long did it take you to say, I'm going to be involved in this new town, this new state? How long did it take you to get yourself up and ready?
Not even a half a second.
Wow.
Because I've been so engaged in Boston since I was a teenager, with Anthony Banks, by the way, and so many other black folks, that were involved in the student movement, that I was fully engaged in politics. So moving here,
you run for office too, Leon?
I ran for office, lost by 31 votes for Roxbury representative back in the 1970s.
Your wife didn't get a U-Haul truck when you ran for?
Yeah, pretty much. As soon as I lost, a couple of years later, I moved out of Boston, kind of frustrated with the fact that at the time I didn't think that I was getting the level of support that I needed to have. So I said, let me get on out of Boston and move to another place. And I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and then to Washington, D.C. But here's the bottom line for me, and I think you all can relate to this, about the question of, how do you get people engaged? Yeah. People are disengaged because there has been no education over the past 30-some-odd years in the public school system around civic engagement. And pastor, both of you pastors have kind of hit the nail on the head with your work in educating people about civic engagement, the requirements of us to be fully engaged, because civic engagement wasn't something that has been taught for the past 30, maybe even 40 years. Remember, it's not being taught. It's not being taught. It should. And by the way, this is how we hold people accountable too, because I hear you, pastors, when both of you all say, well, what about those that are elected officials that aren't being held accountable? This is baseline stuff right here. Why isn't the mayor, and I love her, by the way, but why isn't the city council, and I love these guys as well, from a distance I see them, but at the same time, this baseline requirement of, saying, hey, guess what? We got to bring civics back into public education. And no one is saying anything. The only people that seem to be saying anything in loud terms is you two pastors and Brother Ellison. All three of you collectively together have been, sounding the alarm that this has to change.
I don't want to cut you off, but that's why I started the Marcus Anthony Hall Educational Institute. And
Exactly.
we are training our young folks how to, I mean, we did so much good work with them in the last few years. And now, you know, I mean, we had the phone banking, door knocking, you know, tabling, registering people to vote. We were up at Franklin Park every Tuesday for the Playhouse in the Park to register people to vote. People can come out and party all night long, but won't won't stand in line for 5 minutes to vote. It's because they, first of all, I don't think they have anything. They're not really excited about voting because they feel like their vote don't count, and the only way time it don't count is when they don't cast it.
Yeah.
But they don't see the need to hold our elected officials accountable. When I found out that the Postal Service, that Roxbury Post Office had five trucks of mail that had not been sorted because they had one clerk in the whole post office. You know how big Roxbury Post Office is, right?
Yeah.
There are people living in Roxbury who are waiting for, I mean, businesses, not only residents, but businesses. There's people that checks are being held at the post office, and young folks who have worked all summer haven't been paid because their checks are at the post office. And then when you call, so I reached out to the city councilors, the state legislators, and they make me so sick when they try to pass the buck. You know, oh well, that's AP, that's federal. If you live in the town and you are a city councilor or a state rep or whatever your position is, and you're not getting your own mail for several months, you're not going to say nothing about that? So if you're not getting your mail, what do you think your residents are doing? They're not getting their mail. Your constituents aren't getting their mail either. It's insane for someone to have to go to the post office and stand in line for 2 hours. That don't make no sense.
I have done it at the Roxbury Post Office. I have done it for 2 hours. It was horrific. And then once I got there was one clerk in the whole. There's a line. There's an 8-person location for 8 people to work there, and there's only one person, and she is totally frustrated, and she's taking customer concerns, and the majority of the customers are saying, "Where's my mail?" Standing in line to ask the question, "Where's my mail?"
I mean, that is important. That if nothing else, I mean, what do they say about the mail? How it gets delivered, rain, sleet, or snow? Well, what about when people go on vacation? You mean someone goes on vacation and there's no one to take their place?
That's crazy. That is.
So here's the deal. The bottom line is no one is being held accountable, and it appears that there's a need, and I'm so thankful that Brother Ellison has begun that political action committee because it's important that we hold people accountable. If we look at what goes on, and this is not to insult the city council or the state reps or anybody else, I'm not trying to be insulting, but the reality is that a majority of the folks didn't get raised in Boston, didn't understand Boston, so guess what? They're not understanding community and what needs to be done. Am I wrong, or am I just out of it myself?
No. A lot of people aren't from Boston. That's another issue I have. You have people that come from different states. They become governors. They become city councilors. They become reps. I mean, it just, you're going to come and rep. You're going to come here, go to college. You like the way, I think I'm going to sit here. And then you get involved in the political scene, but you don't know the history. That's the issue. They don't know the history. They may have read some things, but to have lived in Boston, I mean, you have to really know the history of how Boston politics work. I think about people like Mel King, Chuck Turner, Makia Baker Gomez, the Owens, the Bowles. That's how we were taught.
Right. You know,
and then now it seems like all that is going away, and that's why that's why I do the work that I do. I'm telling you, I get weary and well doing, but we can't continue to let this happen because our young folks now, I mean, they the 15, 16, that voting, and they don't care nothing about voting.
Well,
and I think that's because their parents don't care anything about voting.
That's true.
Because they're young.
Yeah.
These young kids out here, 15, 16 years old, some of the women look like they 18, 20. I mean, it's just we're in a new era, a new time, and we have to realize that our vote is our voice. And I don't. Every Thursday I get on and I talk about it. Every Thursday I talk about it.
Every Thursday to the song of a change is going to come, and I have a change that's going to come now. We've got to stop because I've got to go on a Zoom broadcast with a gentleman all the way from Tennessee. But let me say this: I'd love to have the both of you on as I share with you what a group of teenagers said to me regarding the N-word and how they have validated the N-word, and I want you to hear their reason why the N-word is something that they love and that they want to use and why they want to use it. So I'm going to let you know when we do that broadcast because I'd love to hear your opinions regarding the N-word. But I gotta go.
All right, Pastor Leon Rock, I'm gonna give you a call.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day. Bye.
You've been listening to Boston Black News right here on the Boston Praise Radio and TV network. We have the two young men coming up in just a moment. I'm trying to engineer at the same time run this station. We'll be right back with more.